Here, I just wanted to do a quick video on recursion. For anyone who's not familiar with recursion, basically it's doing something over and over. So a recursive function is a function that can actually reference itself or call itself inside of itself. So I know that can sound a little confusing, but I'll explain it. I guess if you go here, I'm going to write a function that will, it'll have a little counter. It'll count from whatever number I put in until 0, and then it'll say complete. So I'll write it normally, and then I'll write a version of it that's recursive. So let's make a function, and we'll call it counter. And counter will take in number n, and if n is 0, if n is equal to 0, whoops, if n is equal to 0, then return console.log, and I'll just log complete. Cool. And then while n, so while n is not 0, so while n, console.log n, log n, and then I will subtract 1 from n, so n minus minus. Cool. And that looks good. And then I'll return complete after that. Console.log complete. Okay, so we're taking in a number n, and if n comes in as 0, then we're gonna return console.log complete and end this function. If that's not true, then we're gonna start this while loop. And we're going to check, is n equal to 0? No, it'll run console.log n. So n should show up in our terminal. And then I'll subtract 1 from n until n eventually equals 0, and this loop breaks. And then once that loop is broken, we'll return console.log complete. So we'll log complete when that's done. And let's just test if that works. So I'll call counter, and I'll give it 10. And we'll see if that works how we expect it to. Node test.js. And 10.98765432 complete. Awesome. So now we can actually write that recursively, and it should take a lot less code. So function, and we'll call it our counter. So recursive counter. Our counter. COUNTER. Sorry, I'm making a lot of typos. And okay, cool. And then I'll start by checking if n is equal to 0 again. If n equals 0, then I will just return console.log complete. Awesome. And then this is the part that gets a little interesting. So now I will console.log n. And what I will return is actually, what I will return is actually this function itself, so our counter, but I will pass in n minus 1. So what's going to happen is this function will get called again. It'll check if n is equal to 0. If n is 0, then it's going to log complete. If n is not 0, then it will log the number. And then what it'll return is actually this function called again, and it'll subtract 1 from n. So if we passed in 2 initially on this function, it would run 1 time. It would log 2. Then it would call itself again. And this time, 1 would be passed in. So it would run again. It would log 1. And then it would call itself, and it would run again. So it would subtract 1 from 1, and it would get 0 here. So then it will check if n is equal to 0, and it will return console.log complete. So let's try that out and see if that works how we expected. So our counter, and we'll pass in 10 also. And we'll console.log here. Just to show the divide. So make a couple new lines. Recursive. Cool. And I'll put another new line there. And then I will label this normal one too. So let's just label that as normal. Or I'll just call it while, because we used a while loop. So while. Okay, cool. So let's call it and see if that works how we expected. So while happens here, 10.987654321 complete, exactly how we expected. And now we have recursive here, 10.987654321 complete, exactly how we expected it. And as you can see, it does the exact same thing. It's just a different way to write a repeating function. A lot of the times you can use this instead of a loop. Most loops can probably be written recursively rather than as a loop, but a lot of the times this could be easier to read, especially to someone who's newer to programming. But this is a lot cleaner, and a lot of the times it can actually be very useful. And if you ever see this, at least, even if you're not going to use it, if you ever see it, then you'll at least understand what's going on. So yeah, I hope that helped. Thanks for watching.